Okay, let's welcome back to the show retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel James Carafano. It's always great to have you on, sir. Okay, the FBI, Homeland Security, now worried about extremist groups and marches starting this weekend in states where they saw a fight over the vote count. We're talking Arizona, Georgia, Minnesota, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. Are their state capitals ready?
Probably. The worst target is a hard target, and knowing that there's a potential for political violence, there's an awful lot you can do, not just in defending the target, but in proactively looking for people that you might suspect are provocateurs and other things. So, once you know there's a plot out there, there's a lot more you can do to make it much, much more difficult. And I'm sure every state capital is taking that threat very seriously.
And they're seeing threat streams toward not just the federal buildings, but also state and local government buildings. All 50 state capitals are in high alert. They're being told to be on the lookout. Major cities are being advised to use SWAT teams when conducting arrests. More than 24 terrorism cases brought by the DOJ already. Let me ask you about this, though. Law enforcement, our sources keep telling us they are really worried about the sporadic lone actor, the small cell violence, like that guy or person they have yet to catch who planted the pipe bombs at the DNC and RNC. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So the good news is that, lone wolves, some very spectacular, successful attacks, those are by people who are more lucky than good. When you're going up against a prepared physical security setup, lone wolves are rarely very successful. So that's the good news. The other thing I think that we have to pay attention to is when you say, well, there's a threat stream, this chatter. Well, there's always chatter and there's always threat streams. And just because there's a lot of talk doesn't necessarily mean there's a lot of action. There was a case in Europe a couple of years ago. A government said they're going to come out and attack this U.S. convoy. And they went out and they did a bunch of research and they actually found nobody on the ground that was going to do that. And they discovered it was just a bunch of talk. So when the FBI says, well, they're talk, do they have other intelligence? Because the talk should lead to investigation of physical people. And it's that the real world and the digital world, you put that together, and that tells you what the threat really is. So just because there's talk doesn't mean there's an actual plot. But the other important point is there is no such thing as a perfect crime. And organizing riots are no exceptions. Once you start talking about this and using social platforms, that becomes, like a thread that you pull the thread and the whole sweater comes apart. That's why we were really pushing for RICO investigations during all the violence this summer, because if there's a plot there to organize criminal activity, the odds are you can find that because these guys are not that good.
What happened with the RICO investigation idea?
Well, this is the other, there are some, and this is the other issue which I think is very frustrating for people. When you're actually conducting an active investigation, telling a lot of people about who you're investigating and why you're investigating them, that doesn't help. And I know everybody wants to know what's going on, but you remember the case of the Hillsdale Strangler a long time ago? He had a very particular shoe. A reporter found out about that, and they convinced the reporter, don't tell anybody, because once the murderer knows that we're looking for his shoe, it'll destroy the shoe, and it'll destroy our ability to investigate this. So the frustrating thing about RICO investigations is you don't really want to broadcast everything you know, because you're using that information to get more information to build a case.
Yeah.
That'll be true for this summer.
Well,
It'll be true for the Capitol Hill attack as well.
But it sounds like the RICO investigations aren't happening, right?
Again, the Justice Department isn't going to tell you the progress on they shouldn't.
Oh, okay, got it.
On their investigations. That's the mark of a good investigation, is not tell the bad guys what you're looking for.
All right, Lieutenant Colonel James Carafano, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, my friend.